podcast, we definitely discuss healing. We discuss aspects of psychology. We discuss, like, you becoming the best you, mental wellness,
For sure.
health,
Femininity, parenthood, dating
definitely
as
dating.
single parents. And it's from a lens of two psychologists,
Yeah.
So,
But also two people who grew up like with both parents, married parents, and then, like, you all know that Chloe and I are the youngest of our crews, like her
yeah.
siblings and my siblings. So yeah, so it's from that
Looking
perspective
yeah
as
looking at
that.
life through that lens, so
Yeah.
you're gonna get a whole lot of things from us being women going through life as parents and all of these awesome attributes. But
Yeah.
yes, womanology, the study of women.
The study of women.
All right, welcome back to Mike Checka, the show where I talk to dope people doing dope things. I got one of my boys on the line. I mean, I think all roads lead back through 12 Kyle and to Jamie Valentine. That's how there's about 12 of us that all got cool because of those two people. Over the years from being bloggers, we all met like blogging online like in the late 2000s, man.
Exactly.
And this
Exactly.
brother right here is, I mean, he is one of the dopest Philly writers. He just won Philly Writer Pen of the Year. He covers the Sixers, covers the Eagles. You cover the Flyers too, or just those two? Cover the
All
Flyers.
four for four.
All the major four.
And if you're into soccer, I'll be covering the Union soon. So
Oh,
MLS,
snap.
everything. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
you got them all. You got
I'll
them all.
try to do it all.
Yeah. Straight out of Philadelphia, man. OJ Spivey, one of the best writers, not just in Philly, all across the country. I check out his stuff when he posted up. And it was funny. There's somebody else in the shout out to the SLC Sports and Culture. I invited you to the group. Somebody had shared one of your tweets, like, "Hey, yo, this dude saying this." I was like, "That's my boy." Like, he's like, "What?" I was like, "I'm gonna add him to the group." That's my boy. So, man, thank you for coming on My Checker, man.
Hey, my pleasure, D. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, let's jump into it, man. So let's start your story, man. So, like, give us back, like, where you come from, like where you kind of got into your niche and your situation of how you got into writing and where you came from.
Sure. So born and raised in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, born and raised. You know the story, right?
Yes.
So I got to say it. Yep.
Yep.
So actually, to go with Philadelphia story, Jazzy Jeff, Fresh Prince, Will Smith, they grew up blocks away from me. So that's how close the connection is. So, but just growing up and everything, I always had a love for sports. And then when I became an adult, I actually wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
But when that didn't work out, um, I just started going in the workforce and everything. But during all that time, I've always been a lover of sports. But once I got into my 30s and just working in corporate America and everything, I just wanted to just kind of change gears and just say, hey, man, I would listen to sports talk shows, I would read the paper, and then I would listen to all these guys, all these jokers and everything. I said, listen, I could be as wrong as these guys, and I'm doing just as much as they do.
I could
So
be
I
just
said,
as
let me,
wrong.
yeah, exactly. And that's what it's all about, getting paid just to be wrong, right? As wrong as those people, right?
Yep.
So at the time, I was just trying to just kind of shift gears, kind of shift careers a little bit. I know I didn't want to, go all the way back to like a 4-year school and all. So long story short, I was able to attend our local broadcast school and just kind of learn the tricks of the trade. It's kind of like, just going to trade school, going to tech school. It's
Yeah.
like, little broadcast school where they kind of give you a bit of a crash course within several months and all. And again, uh, kind of combining that with my knowledge of sports and being a mini historian that I have become over time, especially now that I get to write about it. But no, the only issue was once I got out of school and everything, I thought it was going to be a smoother transition, just trying to break into media and all. And I would try to do little things. First thing I tried to do was like, if you know how radio works, you kind of start out trying to be on a promotions team and all
Yep.
that kind
Yep.
of
Yep.
kind of thing. Nobody would answer my calls. Nobody would. seem to look at my resume or
You couldn't even
anything
go
like
get
that.
coffee. You couldn't go get coffee or donut.
Right, exactly. And I'm in my mid-30s at the time. Just had my daughter and all, and I'm just saying, okay, how can I break in? And then in the meantime, I did little things as far as interning. I was able to call a minor league baseball game, just kind of, having fun with it. Threw the tape away, but I'm terrible. I was terrible. But
so there's nowhere on the net. There's nowhere on the net.
There you go. So it was nowhere else to go but up. But after that, I was able to latch on with a semi-pro football team, and I actually became an announcer / reporter, sideline reporter. And whenever you hear people like on Twitter, Twitter is always the peanut gallery, right? So whenever you hear people talk about how sideline reporting is easy, I call BS on that, because it's one of the hardest jobs in sports. Because you're trying to get players to talk to you in the heat of battle, and more so coaches as well. And last thing they want to do on the field is talk to a reporter. So,
Good point. Okay.
So that was hard work at any level. I don't care whether that's high school, college, semi-pro, pros, whatever. So I was able to cut my teeth with that, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. It was all trial and error. And one of the things that I really wanted to do was get into radio. And again, just not being able to, give out T-shirts or give out bumper stickers or anything like that. Yep. Along the lines during that time. And again, this is how we kind of met, D. So along that time became what we call it podcasting now, right? This is where we're at. But in those days, it was called internet radio, online radio.
What was the name of what was it?
Blog Talk.
Blog Talk, yes.
Yes. So, yeah. So I learned about that through a friend of mine here in Philadelphia. And he already had a show, and he was just doing comedy and stuff like that, because he's really like a funny dude, just naturally funny dude. And he already knew what I did or what I wanted to do. So he just said, hey, I know this new online radio thing. Why don't you get on there and do your show and just do a show and all that kind of stuff? And because I already have a show and everything. It's okay. I was like, yeah, so I can't even get my foot in the door anywhere. So why don't I just try it, trial and error and stuff like that, and got on. Did that for a couple years, and that's when I started meeting different people who did the same thing. Your 12 Cows of the world, your Ice Cream Conversations of the world.
Yeah.
So and she's still going.
That's another people, the Layman's, the brothers
Yeah,
Layman.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all those people, and actually through Ice Cream Conversations, I was able to find a co-host, because I wasn't really that interested of just doing everything myself and all, and just talking for an hour or so and all those things, or 2 hours for that matter, which some of us did back in those days.
Oh, look,
because it was like
a cesspool of nothingness.
Exactly. So, I was able to connect with Diva D, which we're still great friends to this day, out of Atlanta, as some of our other friends are. And we had a good rapport, and we had good listenership and all those things. And one thing led to another, and a friend of mine who I used to coach Little League baseball with here in Philadelphia was on a radio station here, and he was looking for a co-host, or he was just looking for someone to fill in. And he heard what I did, and he actually had me on a couple of times. Like, I would call in, and then he said, hey, why don't you come in one Saturday and sit in with me? And one thing led to another. I ended up being co-host for 4 years at one of the radio stations here in Philadelphia. And during that time, that's really what got me in the door. I wasn't even getting paid, but I was just happy to be on the air.
Get the reps. It's all about getting the reps.
Exactly. And in those days, you really had to pay for your radio time. Even in some aspects, you had to pay to get on the radio most times. If you didn't have a contract and everything. And I got a lot of offers to get on the radio, but I just had to pay for it. And I was like, oh, wait, I ain't got it like that, bro. So, but one thing led to another. And this is where things have really, I want to say, really changed, because being here locally at WURD, it opened a lot of doors for me, where I was able to start to cover different things. Not so much games, or being in the press box, but I was able to cover a lot of community events, like how local teams, they're big in the community, like Eagles,
You're going
Sixers.
around McDonald House for the kids on this
Yeah, different things
charity.
like that, right? Yeah. So, like for the Eagles example, their biggest charity is their autism foundation. So, just different things like that, different partnerships where, hey, you might be able to uh, interview the fourth string long snapper and everything, but it was still
Hey,
experience.
look, you're somebody.
But right, but here's where things really broke for me. And I use say, hey, I'm with such and such radio station, and people were able to let me in different spaces, and this is where it broke. And it goes back to, again, doing that online radio, doing that podcasting back at Blog Talk. I had and we would have different type of guests, and I had one guest in particular at the time. She had covered the Memphis Grizzlies down in Tennessee, and she has since moved on and became a producer at ESPN. And then what we know now is Anscape, which used to be the Undefeated.
Yeah.
She became a editor there.
Because what was the original name of What was the original name of Undefeated? It was something else, because wasn't Jason Whitlock supposed to be running that originally?
Yeah, when they launched the Undefeated, I think it was going to be under another name, but it ended up just being, the brand just ended up being the Undefeated.
Right.
And yeah, I believe he was supposed to be, thank God, but he was supposed to be he was supposed to be the editor in chief, because that probably wouldn't have lasted if that would have happened. But anyway, in fact, a friend of mine who I used to co-host with at URD, he actually his name is Neil Scarborough, and he used to be he used to run ESPN.com, and he's a mentor of mine. And we did our talk show here at URD for a couple of years before he went out west to Fox Sports at the time. So he's a mentor of mine that, he also helped me along the way. But who ended up, the woman who ended up being my editor at the Undefeated used to cover Memphis Grizzlies. So she had contacted me one morning, and I was just downtown in a coffee shop on my way to work, on my way to my 9 to 5. And she said, hey, Malcolm Jenkins, you know anybody that can cover this for me? Because Malcolm Jenkins, who was with the Eagles at the time, and I'm fast forwarding here to 2017. And this is the height of Colin Kaepernick, Black Lives Matter.
The Players Union, right? At that time,
right. So, yeah. And Malcolm Jenkins was scheduled to speak at Temple University at a Black Lives Matter session. And he was on a panel. And she needed someone she found out about, she needed someone to cover it. And at that time, I did like some blogging here and there, as you know, D. But no formal journalism, not formal articles, and certainly not for a national publication like ESPN or Undefeated. I actually did blogging for a couple of friends. I had, a website tied to my podcast, my old podcast. But I was calling around. Funny thing is, I was calling around my journalist friends to say, hey,
can you do it?
Might have a gig for you. Might have a gig for you. And nobody would answer the phone. So I guess that was God himself, knocking me on the head saying, hey, dude, why don't you
do it yourself?
Why don't you do it yourself? Why don't you take a crack at it? And mind you, I'm nervous as hell. I'm like, okay, how am I going to write for a national publication? And I said, you know what? I messaged her back and I said, hey, what do you need me to do? I'll do it. And she was like, bet. So she gave me the instructions, this, that, and the third. I went there nervous as heck, not really knowing what I'm doing, but, I'm thinking back to what they taught me in broadcast school as far as, getting crash courses on journalism, all right, because at that time, I had tunnel vision, just think I'm just going to be on the radio, period. Yep. So this is kind of a shift. So went there that night, that evening, got the interview, sat in on a session and everything. 24 hours later, I have my first published article on a national stage.
Man.
Yeah. So,
Yo,
and from from there, things just kind of took off, even though it was tough. It's tough pitching stories for a national publication, you know, unless you have the autonomy and, you know, you've been there for a long time and everything. And it just opened the door for me where I was able to do articles on Kevin Hart, because, you know, it was a sports and entertainment type of publication. So I was able to do stories on Kevin Hart. And then the pinnacle of that was doing a story on one of my idols, Dr. J.
To Julius.
And, you know, we probably don't have time for that whole backstory of how I got the
No, we
interview.
can go do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
let's
right,
do it.
So let me just tell you a quick story about
let's
Dr.
do it.
J. So you're familiar with the Big Three tournament, you know, the Ice Cube's baby, right?
Yep.
So, of course,
Is that coming back?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they're coming back. Yep. The only thing that's ever stopped them was the pandemic year.
Right. Did they? So it came back. It was back last year, right?
It was. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah. So that particular year they came to Philly, and it was both Dr. J and Allen Iverson was involved at the time too. So
right, because was AI playing?
Nah, he started out as a player / coach, but he ended up just coaching, and he was only there. He was only involved for that season. But anyway, you know, it was here in Philadelphia, and a lot of people were there, and a lot of celebs were there. Everything from LL Cool J to who you name it, and you know, waiting for all the games because you know it's usually like a 4-game set. And it was well into the night, right? So it's at 10:30 at night, and I'm there. You know, I'm there all day just to get an interview, just to ask a few questions for Dr. J to do this kind of like a "Where are you now" type of story. So 10:30 comes. We're waiting for all the other players. It's really cool because you know you heard from Clyde Drexler, you heard from Mahmoud Abdul-Haruf, all great guys, all great interviews.
It was super. This is super heavily attended.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, hearing from all those guys, great, but you know, that's not my story, right? So I'm waiting for Dr. J to come, and others were waiting for Allen Iverson to come. So we're waiting. Then after, all of a sudden, PR comes in and say, "That's all the interviews for tonight." And I'm like, "What the hell?" I said, "I got here all day, and mind you, I went through hell just getting a credential for it because." You know, it was kind of tricky getting the credentials for it. It was a lot easier for other.
So it was hard to get a credential for the Big Three than like another regular sporting event.
Pretty much. I wouldn't say it's hard. It was just the lines of communication.
Okay.
So
it wasn't like how you can just go to the Philadelphia Eagles and like this is the media person. That's all they do is just give out credentials. That person,
they handle the problem. You know who you're dealing with, yeah. So.
It's probably one person doing 5 jobs for the Big Three. Like they doing media credentials, they also doing catering.
Yeah, the guy at the time, he probably had like 10 jobs. So, and you know, and it was kind of in their early stages. So I kind of give it a mulligan looking back. But you know, PR comes in and says, "Oh yeah, no more interviews." I'm like, "What the hell am I going to do?" It's on a Sunday night. I got to get this in within 24 hours. You know, deadlines are everything with journalism, right? So I call up my editor the next morning, and I'm like, "It's no interview. They didn't make them available." And to her credit, all she said was, you know, just do what you can to just keep the line of communications open with his PR. And Doc has his own home PR team. And they ended up doing a great job because I told them my situation and I was just persistent and just emailing them and everything. And they said, "We apologize, but if you could hold out until September," and this is July, mind you, if you could hold out till September, Julius Irving has a annual golf tournament during the week, and it ends in this big gala. and everything. And if you can hold out till then, we'll give you an exclusive. I was like, okay,
yeah.
not even fully trusting that it's going to happen. I said, okay, how is this going to turn out? And we'll just revisit it. I think it was around Labor Day weekend. So they went through with it. The gala comes. It's on a Sunday evening at one of the local hotels here, and I'm down there. I bring my girlfriend at the time, who's my fiance now, and I see it's this presence. And mind you, this is my idol, D. I see this 6'7", 66-year-old guy.
With a bad wife.
And when I tell you, he still remains the coolest person in the room. And this is what I'm fighting with. I'm fighting with the icon that I grew up seeing as a little boy bring a championship, home to Philadelphia, along with Moses Malone and all those other guys. Is that the only
title too?
They have two. They have one other in Philly, and that was during World's time, right? Yeah. So, but I'm fighting on.
Was that with Wilt?
Yes.
Okay.
1967.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
1967, 1983.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm fighting. I have to interview my idol.
And you're like, I can't nut up. Like this is and it's a big opportunity for you too.
Yeah, I can't screw this up, right? So because I'm already 2 months late. So so I can't screw this up. And mind you, he has no idea who I am, right? So but his PR staff was great and all. And I finally get to sit down with him, and I'm making sure I have my old recorder, my old digital recorder, and I have my phone. My recorder wasn't working. Thankfully, my phone, I was able to, record the audio.
Backup for the backup.
Yeah, backup for the backup, thankfully, because, he kind of asked me if I was ready, And once I sat down, started asking questions, everything just smoothed out.
And did he smooth? Because sometimes I know when I've interviewed people after they start talking and they know what you're talking about, like they mellow out as well, and they're like, oh,
that's
this is gonna be a good one, like a good conversation. Like it's not
no BS or nothing like that. Yeah, so he just went, it turned out perfect, and I was able to write the story, publish it, and everything. But the cool thing about it was afterwards, because they had like a red carpet and everything, and they had this big reception. What's his name? Jay Harris from ESPN. He hosted the thing, and it was all types of celebrities there. Marcus Allen, Lonzo Mourning. I got to meet Reggie Jackson, another one of my idols, who's from Philadelphia.
Wow. Mr. October.
And that's not even talking about the musicians, because Doc is real tight with Jeffrey Osborne, Gerald Levert. They all boys. So they were popular. They were all popular in the 70s, right?
They all boys. Around.
Yeah, exactly. So they were all there, all of them. So it was like a who's who of like Black excellence. So we ended up crashing the party, right? So
they let you know you had crashed it.
Well, I was trying to talk to Reggie Jackson, and that was tougher, right? Because Reggie Jackson he has a reputation of being hard to deal with or being standoffish.
Yes, everybody knows that.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, what can I ask Reggie Jackson? So I had to be a journalist again, even though I'm sort of off duty. I had to be a journalist again. What can I ask Reggie to where he won't blow me off? So I got him, right? So I knew the high school that he went to. But I also knew that the time that he went to the high school, I wasn't sure whether he was in the new building, whether he went in the new building or was the old building. And I'm trying to ask a question that he's never gotten asked before.
Exactly.
So that's another key. That's another key to journalism and broadcasting, right? Try not to ask the same old tired ass questions, right? Mm-hmm. So I asked him, and he was like right at the door of the reception room. And I asked him, and he was looking elsewhere. I said, "Hey, Reggie," I said, "did you go to the old high school or the new high school?" He kind of looked and turned. He was like flabbergasted that
Somebody knew.
I asked that question. Yeah. And he said, "Oh, I went to the new building." And I got him. I got him, bro.
So did you get another article out of that one?
No, what's an art? I just want a photo at the
Yeah.
time. And I got a photo with him. I said, "Well, Reggie, can I get a photo with you?" You know, I wasn't like a fanboy or anything like
Yeah.
that. I was just trying to just play it cool. So the worst thing I want to do is be a fanboy, right?
Yeah, especially in
But
the yes.
but again, you know, I'm growing up. You know, that's Reggie. That's Mr.
Yeah.
October. You know, I remember his candy bar. You know, going to the store get his candy bar, man. So, but I was able to get a photo with him because, you know, I'm off duty. I'm done. You know, and everything. So if I don't do anything else, that's the last thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna roll out, right? So, but I got a photo with him, and you know, the door's right there. So we just made our way in. We was in there for maybe a good hour. Me and my fiance, and we ended up having a drink. We ended up having some hors d'oeuvres and everything like that. It was
So
crazy.
was it a sit down dinner or more like a cocktail event?
It was like all in one room. It was
Oh
like a
wow.
sit down thing. You know, I ain't sit down because, of course, I ain't had no table.
Right. So you just might kind of mingle on the
So
outside.
no, we're in the back because in the back they have all the drinks, all the hors d'oeuvres, and everything.
So
I don't even
then
know
on
if
the inside is actual real tables that people pay for tables.
yes.
Okay.
So you know, it's a whole charity event and all.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we're there for a good hour, and you know, as nice as the PR people was in there, you know, they saw us in there. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, no media." It's like, okay, cool, you know, we out. But
Yeah. I got the ticket for extra hour. We good? Like you know.
yeah, so it was just a funny time. You know, I hopefully my editor never hears that story at the time. So,
Hey,
but
look, you gotta
that
expose
was
a
my
boy.
night with Dr. J.
Wow, dude, that is super dope. Like, so, and then that article came out, and then, so, like, how did you like build that into getting this stuff with the Philadelphia Eagles and building that brand on that other side, and then, dude, winning the award for the Pen of the Year?
So it was just persistence, and you know, we're going on now. We're talking about over a decade of persistence, but ever since that time, going from 2017, and mind you, breaking into the door of getting in the Eagles press box. That was really it was really a task, not because it was just so it was difficult, not because the Eagles themselves were difficult. It was just difficult just getting a name for myself because of a number of things. And mind you, I had spent parts of 3 seasons working for their game day staff at the link at the stadium. So I kind of have a little inside track of
Of how it
the
works.
team how the team works and everything. Not up in the press box or anything like that, but I've been on the field. I've been in the bowels of the stadium, like seeing where the locker rooms are and everything like that. You know, knowing the ins and outs of the stadium. So, mind you, I'm kind of bit of undercover. So it's almost like a covert thing. It's like, okay, I can see myself, you know,
In these different
in
spaces.
these spaces, right? So, but it was just persistence, and just still just reaching out to them, covering their community events, covering their draft parties, covering just whatever they had that was off the field, but actually at the stadium and different things like that. I was there, and it's very tough, especially in a market like Philadelphia. It's still even though we're the sixth largest city now as far as population, it's still the fourth largest media market.
Yeah, I was just gonna
And a
say that.
large,
I thought it was 4 just because I knew there's a fourth media marketplace.
yeah. So, with that being said, that it's very competitive, and there are a lot of requests. They get requests all the time for people just trying to get in there. People would die to just get into an Eagles game because a lot of people who are in media, they're just glorified fans, especially if they're local. So that's the thing you have to watch out about, and that's the thing that you have to distinguish yourself from. And I was never going to get in that space while being on the radio. That's one thing that I realized. And they rarely give credentials to people who have blogs, so to speak. So you basically have to be a beat writer, or you have to be at a publication that's been around for a long time, or a publication that is just straight legit.
So if you had, let's say, if you had Eagles fans YouTube page that had 300,000 followers, they still wouldn't give it to you then, even there.
Right. Yeah. And it's probably a couple here and there that they might get into, and maybe those people have connections or whatever. But it's one thing it's two things. It's one thing getting in there, just being a legit source, or just being part of a legit publication. It's another thing being Black.
Hey, there you go.
And again, this is not a thing with the Eagles as well, but it's just the whole scope of journalism.
Yeah, no, I mean, I cover the St. Louis FC team, man, and it was so like the first game, I got this wild hair and shit, so I'm in there, and this commissioner of the MLS is there, so I jump out with a question like, yo, how do you feel about the diversity and how everything is growing in the league? He looked double taked at me, like I sent you the video. He double takes at me, like, then he was like, oh, okay, yeah, we doing this and this. We blowing up, and I'm the only brother in the whole press box. Only brother.
Yeah.
Every week, I was only brother.
I covered my first Phillies game last week, and I'm the only Black person there in the press box. And it's one thing to know the numbers. It's another thing to just be in there and witness it.
Mm-hmm.
And also the looks that you get. I got those same looks when I first got into the Eagles press box in the preseason last year.
Who you are, like everybody's like, who you are, like what do you do? I was like,
and again, it's one thing being new, it's one thing being new and Black. But because I guarantee you, if I was new and white, nobody look at me
it wouldn't
twice.
second guess you at all. No,
exactly. So but I do have a couple people to thank for that. Another mentor of mine who I kind of preceded. Who preceded me, I should say, at the Philadelphia Tribune. His name is Donald Hunt. He retired, and that just kind of opened things up for me. I was already at the Tribune. I'll talk about that in a moment. I was already at the Tribune doing different, community culture stories and all. But once Donald Hunt retired and everything, that kind of opened up the door for me to do more.
Slide right in.
Sports stories. I wouldn't say slide right in because nobody places I mean, he was at the paper for 30 years. Over 30 years, has all types of awards and everything like that, and well deserved. And I still talk to him this day every now and then. And he's reached out to me, which is really big for Black journalists to just kind of keep the ladder going down. Keep the fire escape going down. People can, keep going up to the top and all. But I have him to thank, a few other people as well. But he kind of gave me the tricks of the trade, who to talk to, and just say, and I would use his name, thankfully, and with his blessing. And, when I would talk to the Eagles PR person or the Sixers PR person, I'd say, hey, I'm with the Philadelphia Tribune. I'm stepping in for Donald Hunt, and they say, oh yeah, it's a lot of it's familiarity too, and most places, and that, with in corporate America and everything, people are just more so familiar with people who they know. They're more comfortable with people who they're familiar with.
It's I learned recently this statement: nobody ever gets fired for using IBM. It's
right.
Like it's the thing of like you go out and go try to get a different computer for the system and it messes up. It's like whatever. But if you go to IBM and it messes up, it's like, okay, well, you did the thing you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to IBM. So
exactly.
That's the same principles.
Exactly. So that just the persistence of just still going to different events, just being visible, keeping a line of communications open. And there were times where I got turned down. It was a couple years where I just tried to get into training camp, and training camp seems to be more strict than going to the games.
Really?
Because everybody wants to be in training camp just as much as the games is concerned, because you want to see what Jalen Hurts is doing. You want to see those
What do
one-on-one
they do their training
matchups.
camp at? Where's their training camp at?
Well, it's rare because the Eagles are one of the few teams where they have their own headquarters and training complex, which is basically across the street from their stadium.
So they don't go to. So they don't go like how a lot of training camps would be like off of like hour or two away from the city.
No, not anymore. At one time, the franchise did that, but since they did their own facility, they would go to like a couple of local universities over time, which might be an hour away or something like that. But a lot of teams, they like to keep their training in house at their facility or as local as can get, because the logistics things of travel and all that kind of stuff, and players like to be sleep in their own beds.
Yeah, because that was the whole thing of like, man, they hated it because they had to go out. You going, I know,
feel like you're in the military or at boot camp. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I gotta go out to Macomb, Illinois, and go to training camp for 3 weeks. I don't want to even go. We just out there in bunk beds.
Like Washington. At one time, they trained in Pennsylvania. They trained in upstate Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere.
Washington
at one time, yeah. So, yep. So,
was this under the Snyder era still?
Nah, that was like the Joe Gibbs era. So yeah,
okay.
back during the Hogs and everything. So yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah, because he probably was thinking like, oh, I want to be out. I want to get my players away from everything. The old school coaches mentality.
Focus on football. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to get you in mind. Stay for the
no distractions, no sacks, no nothing like that. So yeah.
Like the Junction Boys, like with Texas A&M back in the day.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Focus on football. Was that? Well, they took a family out during training camp. What they say, faith, family, football, whatever. But no, it was no family during training camp. But anyway. But it was just really tough. And again, it was just all making a name for myself. And again, making a name for myself as a Black journalist in this space. And even when I finally got into the Eagles press box, just being a writer. And mind you, I'm not a beat writer because I just cover a little bit of everything. And knowing that, people like Donald Hunt before me were in that press box and everything, that opened the door for me. So I was able to put my application in, they accepted it. And another thing that comes with that is, and again, I'm 50 years old and I'm stepping into a press box in the first NFL press box for the first time. And I'm kind of dealing with, what do you call that? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah. We're like, why am I here?
Yeah. So, and it's like, I'm thinking back at, how if you stay in a luxury hotel or you get on a cruise and everything and you're like in the captain's suite, which is like, somehow they upgrade you.
Yeah.
To like,
and you find yourself cleaning up the room because you don't know what to do. Like
exactly.
You clean up the room.
All of a sudden, you get comfortable in the room and everything, and they show, Mr. Spivey, there's been some type of mistake, so.
You're like, oh, and you feel like you had your rug pulled out of you any time.
You almost feel like you stole it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying,
Yes,
but it's real.
Yes.
It's almost like a psychological thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we deal with as Black people, a lot of us, unless you're,
Not just in that, in life in general.
Right. So yeah. So that's kind of how I felt to step into that press box. Like I'm really in this mug, So
like we here now.
Like get comfortable, act like I've been here and everything. No, it's not act like I've been here. It's like the sense of belonging. And then I think about, all the hard work and everything that I've put in. Yeah. And all the hard work and all the hard intentional work.
So how'd you get to the paper? Like, what was that? How was that moving from the Undefeated going to the local news beat?
Yeah, that's a great question, D, because at the time when I was still with the Undefeated, and again, when you write for a national publication, and if you're not all that experienced and everything, it's hard to pitch your own stories. And that's what I pretty much had to do. And again, I suffer with the confidence of pitching stories and like, okay, and I'm not great at rejection, so to speak. So, I think it's a good story and everything get rejected. And, it's not anything personal. It was just, hey,
Yeah, we're gonna
do
pass on
better. Yeah, we won't pass on that. Do better. Whatever. And, that was tough for me.
What was it
And
before you keep going? What was the story? You was like, I know this is gonna pop that they did not take,
whew,
or you were like
I
really
think
wanted to do man, this would be dope.
it was a baseball story. I can't remember exactly in particular what it was because it was a couple things, but it was a baseball story. It's like, not what are you looking for? Everything like that. So, but that made it tough. And I was like, okay, I started second guessing myself. And so even though it's the shift of writing, like, is this really for me? So I kind of stopped, and I was kind of like at a crossroads and saying, okay, how am I going to do this? Do I want to get back into radio? Do I want to pursue writing? And mind you, I would do a little writing here and there, like have like a little Tumblr blog and stuff like that. Kind of dabble with like my own website and all and stuff.
Medium and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And Medium is actually a great place for writers who just want to either cut their teeth or just keep their craft going. And Medium actually does have a platform to where you can actually do some really good writing, and it gets published, and it's actually a place to where it's very visible for writers who are kind of like in between, or for writers who are want to. It's kind of like you're familiar as far as just indie artists, independent artists, independent musicians, singers, and everything. That's kind of like what Medium I think is a perfect place for independent writers,
it's the SoundCloud for writers.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's a good description. So yeah. So I even did some things on Medium. Yeah, just kind of keeping my feet wet, and then just still trying. Mind you, I'm still working full time. I work full time. I have a full time job today. So, in this day and age with journalism,
they ain't paying no
it's
bills
kind of,
like that.
yeah, it's tricky, and you're almost forced to have at least a second
At least for the
income.
benefits.
Right.
Minimum for the benefits.
That's another thing. So yeah, another word to the wise there. But through the pandemic, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do and everything like that. So as we're coming out of pandemic, sort of in the summer of 2021, a good friend of mine who I knew from different social circles with Black journalists and different things of that nature. She's one of the editors at the Tribune, Philadelphia Tribune, and she just reached out to me one day because you see me in action on Twitter and everything.
Yeah.
I'm basically a writer on Twitter, semi. So I don't know if I want to do those 1,200 words or anything, as the Musk guy is kind of proposing with all his subscriptions and stuff like that. I would never do that on.
Yeah. I don't remember. Some people who don't know. Do you remember when that Zola thing went down on Twitter back in the day, with the girl that ended up getting the movie later on? It just came out like a year or two ago. Right. That was like the first time you could actually comment up under your tweets. Then, so that's when she ended up.
Yes, that was a big thing. Yeah,
that was because actually it wasn't even threads then. She was just literally just sending out tweets. You remember you couldn't even thread then. You couldn't even attach a thread. It was just continuous tweets. Like that was the old dusty days of Twitter where you could, that's when it was the Wild West. Like it was
and that's my thing now. I'm always good for a thread. I'll read threads, I'll write a thread and everything like that. So just kind of in between figuring out what I was doing. Sharon Flanagan, who is my editor at the Tribune, she reached out to me and she already knew what I do. And she just reached out to me and said, hey, why don't you consider writing for us? And that's a big thing too, also, no matter what you do. And I remember, this is back in corporate America, I worked for an insurance company for like 14 years. And I remember a lady there, a Black woman said, and this has always stuck with me, the saying is not what you know, is who you know.
Mm-hmm.
She took it a step further and said, it's not what you know. What she said, it's not who you know, it's who knows what you know.
Oh, yeah, because
And
it
that's
doesn't
always,
matter. Yeah, who knows what you do
that's,
know?
yeah, so that always stuck with me. So Sharon is one of those people. She knows what I know. And she trusted me to go to come to the Tribune and everything, come in and write a few stories and everything. And ironically, my mother, who has since passed, she was in the Tribune over 40 years ago because she got arrested because she was protesting at my elementary school.
Wow.
Because they had to sit in my elementary school because they ousted the principal. And this shit
Whoa.
was just life coming full circle.
Yeah, full circle
Um,
situation.
yeah, life coming full circle with, my mom being in the Tribune, 40 years ago, and I'm writing for the publication. And again, it's also the same publication that we use in school. So, so I'm writing stories here and there. And this is really where I'm honing my craft, even though I wrote for ESPN website. I was still just getting my feet wet, but it was where I learned. I wasn't doing sports. I was doing community stuff. I was doing history stuff. Doing a lot of research and 40 stories and all. And this is where I really honed my craft, and I'm kind of putting two to two together, with me being a bit of a self-proclaimed sports historian. And then when Mr. Hunt retired, I kind of lobbied, and she already knew how much I knew about sports, so I just kind of just eased in.
You knew what you
Started
knew. It's not about who you knew. It's about who
right,
who knows
exactly.
what you
So
know.
one thing led to another. I'm doing these sports stories, and then um, as time passes, I'm getting more persistent. And with the Eagles, I sent the email one day to all the PR people that I did, two PR people that I know with the Eagles, and say, hey, I'm with the Philadelphia Tribune now. I'm going to start doing stories for them. So keep an eye out. So
And
then
was
once
it
you let
easier? Was it like a little bit smoother after you like almost with the Tribune? They like, oh, you good.
much so, yep, I'm taking over for Donald Hunt and everything. He's since retired. I'm kind of stepping into his shoes a little bit. Do some stories here and there, and then boom. Again, they already knew me, but of course, their hands are tied and everything because they have a job to do too. So,
Yep. And they got to get the
but
official, like you said, you have official publication on your back.
yeah,
Then it's like,
exactly.
oh, okay, we can
And,
do this now.
and it's kind of um, it's pride. It's a source of pride for me because I got in through a Black publication. So,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to have, you know, we'll call PWI because
Yeah.
that's pretty much what newspapers are. They're
Yeah.
PWIs, right? So I didn't have to have a PWI publication to affirm my status,
Yeah.
to get in those spaces. And mind you, I had already actually the first team that really allowed me to actually cover a game, and this was kind of indirect, was Philadelphia Flyers.
Really?
I mean, they've been horrible the past couple of years,
Yeah.
but because
So they
of
was
their
open to
community,
anybody giving them coverage.
not so much that, but not so much that, but because of their community events, they have this. The founder of the Flyers, Ed Snyder, who had passed a few years ago, he has this youth hockey association where they're like committed to having people of color, inner city kids, learn the game of hockey through education and all that. So I covered a couple of their stories, and one day it's like, hey, and they were great too. So Flyers PR, and they said, hey, you want to stay for the game? You want to cover the game, everything like that. They weren't asking for a story or anything like that. They just wanted me to experience, and part of it too is they were doing this big, they're doing a big renovation of, the arena and everything, and they wanted me to see that too. But I developed an awesome relationship with them as well. And, they were the ones that let me in the door, and that kind of helped me as well. So, because it's like it's name recognition
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
But everybody knows in Philadelphia, Eagles are it. It's a football town, first and foremost. Eagles could go, what is it, 1-16 now? It'll still be Eagles town, first and foremost. So that's how it is.
Even more, I
So
mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, I was thinking the Phillies maybe could be in there too, but
everybody else, listen, we're all extremely loyal, but it's Eagles, and then there's everybody else. You know,
everybody else jockeying
all
for that second position, depending on what's going on.
everyone else is playing for second,
Okay.
year to year. So if the Sixers are bad, if the Phillies are bad, nobody's selling out. With Eagles games, Eagles tickets, they settle Eagles season tickets and divorces, man. So
Wow, really?
that's how crazy it is. They pass it down from generation to generation.
Like,
I
look,
know,
we ain't
like,
together, but we
I
got things
know
together.
I know fifth generation Eagles fans. That's how
Wow.
crazy it is.
Wow.
I know
Okay.
Eagles fans, still around from the 50s and the 60s, or they'll tell me it's been passed down from their grandfather, their great grandfather. You don't give Eagles tickets away because there's a waiting list, first of all, for season tickets. But you don't give them away. So it's crazy. You know how tough we are as fans and everything.
Yeah.
We'll give you the business and everything, but they're going to go to an Eagles game, come hell or high water.
Wow. So how'd you end up getting the award, man?
So basically what happened was, it's the thing that you get nominated for.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. And again, I wasn't even doing sports at the time, and I was doing such a good job and just putting out these stories. And what I try to do, I'm big on humanity. And sometimes it's tough for me we don't, first of all, we don't really do those kind of things at the Tribune where we're just, just hardcore and, we'll rip a guy and, call a player names. No, it's not that anybody does that, but, not being critical where you're asking, why did you miss that free throw with 3 seconds left in the game? Or why did you drop that touchdown pass? I can summarize it in a way to where, it still has a humanity, right? So basically what I was just doing stories and everything on, just different people in the community, whether it's something about veterans, black veterans who were killed in Vietnam, to, someone who's head of a corporation here in Philadelphia who happens to be black, right? So that's just an example. But when I started, it was one story in particular, I can't remember what it was. And Sharon had said to me, she said, she just emailed me, said, great job. I see awards in your future. And, I didn't get into it for awards. And I know everybody says that, but, I don't even know how awards worked with journalism. So, right. So it's this club here in Philadelphia called the Pen and Pencil Club. And I think a lot of other cities may have that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do.
But it's like one of the longest, it's one of the oldest journalism organizations in the United States. And I think, but they brought back what's called their Philly News Awards. And what editors do, and editors get nominated too, but what publications do, whether it be television, newspaper, digital, and they'll say, hey, nominate someone for these awards. And Sharon gave my name along with a few other people from our publication, and people get to vote on it. And, it may seem like a popularity contest, but hey, people vote for Academy Awards, people vote for Grammys and everything. So it's all a voting system, right? So, but even though you're nominated, not everyone gets nominated. So that's what I found out, that, you have to be,
I'm good.
yeah, but you have to be of a certain, I won't say a certain status is the right word, but you have to be of a certain credibility
to get nominated,
perhaps get nominated, right? So I'm on the nominees list, and I'm, amongst 5 other people in the sports category who are all great writers and all more experienced writers than I am. So I just put the flyer out there and just said, hey, you know, your boy's nominated for Sports Reporter of the Year. And, you know, just wasn't thinking to say, hey, here's what the vote, to see how it goes and everything. I wasn't thinking, but as time went, I said, okay, I might just win this thing. Because so many people have reached out and say, oh, yeah, you know, you up for this? Well, I'm going to vote for you and everything. Oh, can we vote twice? Can we vote, you know, 3 times? You know, all that stuff. You could, but you just had to have a different email address. You know how to.
You know, because I voted twice from 2 different emails.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah. So it just worked out and everything. And during the ceremony and everything, when they announced the awards, the winners and all, and most of the categories were tight. And, you know, we're talking about sports, we're talking about investigative journalism, you know, we're talking about, you know, special stories, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, again, the other reporters and everything were very deserving, could have easily just blew me out of the water. And they're, you know, I would think they had more of a recognition than I am, but hey, that might be the power of Twitter. That might be the power of you guys and everything. And I won. And I think I won by like maybe 2 percentage points.
Oh, wow.
So 2 or 3 percentage points. So it was really a close race. And, you know, I won it and everything. And then, you know, hey, and somebody like me, you know, shy kid from West Philly, I'm gonna promote my wins, man, because it's been a long journey. You know,
No, that's real. Hey, that is real right there. That is real.
I've been at this since I was 35 years old. So,
and nothing wrong with taking that victory lap, man. Nothing wrong with taking that victory lap.
Exactly. So, and again, I'm doing that to serve as an inspiration for others, because as journalism now is at an attack, and again, I'm talking about journalism overall, like whether you're on radio, whether you want to be a sideline reporter, whatever you want to be involved in, as far as this whole media scoop, and it's under attack. And as you know, to quote someone like an Al Sharpton, I remember he always said that when America catches a cold, Black people catch the flu.
Yep. That's real.
So, you know, that kind of trickles down and just kind of every industry. And, you know, a lot of people who, you know, a lot of different journalism circles, people are leaving the business. And a lot of us are leaving the business because it's just not worth it. Either the pay is not worth it, or, you know, you're just discriminated against enough to where it's just discouraging. And I've wanted to quit several times. Several times.
I'm gonna keep it real.
Like, you know, it's just worth it, you know, and, you know, it's time where, you know, you want to chase the money and everything, because everybody wants to be on, not me necessarily, but everybody, you know, wants to be the ESPN sports anchor, you know, or everybody wants to be on NFL Live being, you know, that sideline reporter and everything. But it's a lot bigger than that. And what I just try to do is just be an inspiration and just try to not announce my wins, but I'm sharing. I'm sharing the good news. I'm sharing, you know, whatever I go through, whether it be good or not so good. Like the other day, like when I was covering my first Phillies game, because I was doing a story on the Jackie Robinson Day. Jackie Robinson salute. It's crazy, man. I mean, you know, you talk about the lack of Black baseball players on the field, the lack of journalists in the press box, man, it's even worse.
Oh, I know.
Because it's like, it's, you know, and again, Phillies were great. They were great to me, you know, letting me inside that space and everything. And I've now developing a good relationship with them, to where, you know, I can call them up or contact them and say, hey, I'd like to cover this game. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, they will accommodate me. So, and same with the Sixers as well. But, you know, it's been quite a journey, and, you know, I never tell people that I've arrived, even if I do, because it's still an ongoing journey, as is with life. And even during the times that I wanted to quit just something inside me just, you know, wants to keep me going and everything. And, you know, if people like me don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Somebody has to be in there to represent. And one of my main inspirations for doing that as well is having more people that look like us tell our stories.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's under fire, like you said, like in the right stories too. Like everybody could tell the story of Jay-Z and Beyonce, and I'm not shading anybody that's what they do, but there's so many other stories and richness of what we doing in this whole thing of blackness, and it's not just in blackness in general in the world that needs to be told, that people can know like it's not just me.
Exactly. And just for example, and I know you wanted to talk about him as well, like covering Jalen Hurts this year.
Yeah, let's go. That was my next question.
Yeah, and it was really an experience because if you know his story, where he came from, the being best in Alabama and then trying to, reinvent himself to get drafted, at OU.
I'm still upset about that, but I mean, that's because he went to.
Exactly, that's right. Because you're a Ohio State guy.
No, right? Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State.
Yeah, and the messed up part is we almost beat them that year. It was an overtime game too.
That's right. It was Brock Purdy, wasn't it? Right?
Yeah.
There you go. Exactly. Because during the championship game that week and everything, I didn't even realize Brock Purdy went to Iowa State.
Yeah.
And they were showing highlights of that game. I was like, oh man, they was getting it on. I don't even remember that game.
Yeah.
I do remember Jalen at Oklahoma and everything because, he was really fun to watch and everything. And I didn't know that he went toe to toe with, Cyclones and everything. And I know Iowa State always.
The XFL was his receiver, Hakeem Butler.
Oh, that's right. That
was his receiver. And then, old boy from the Jets was the running back.
What's his name?
Rock. What is his name?
Yeah, it escapes me now.
Hold on.
I know exactly who you're talking about. I can't think of his.
Breece Hall, man, that's my boy, Breece Hall.
There you go.
Breece Hall was the running back, so they all was together.
There you go. Yes. So yeah, they were showing that game and everything. I was like, oh yeah, I gotta go back and look at this game, and I did. I found it and everything. I was like, oh man, they was going toe to toe. Yeah, it was a classic Big 12 game.
Yeah. We ended up going to the Fiesta Bowl that year.
Yes. So anyway, just covering Jalen Hurts was just, I could almost, maybe I will, maybe I'll write a book on it or something like that. That's another thing that I'm thinking about too, writing a book or two. But the whole thing about Jalen Hurts, I'm coming out of Oklahoma, the night he was drafted, when I tell you the night he was drafted, you go back and look at some of those videos and some of the reactions when he was drafted in the second round. They already had a franchise quarterback, Carson Wentz, who they gave a ton of money to. And, Carson didn't take that well, all because Jalen Hurts just exuded confidence from the day he stepped in that facility. He exuded confidence and he won the locker room right from the literally the day he walked in the door. And Carson Wentz was done at that point. So
really? So that could you see that then that he was done?
Yeah, even though I wasn't in, I wasn't on the inside, covering the team and everything. Just all the reports just kind of led to that. And then the more I learned about Jalen Hurts, the more sense that it made. Just the way he was groomed, all those things. And I said, oh yeah, he's gonna end up playing because Carson Wentz was so bad, and he allowed that to affect him. Injury prone. Well, that's why they drafted Jalen Hurts, because of insurance. I mean, they didn't necessarily intend him to be the starting quarterback going forward, but it was just insurance. But Carson Wentz reacted to it so bad, and that just opened up the floodgates for Jalen Hurts, and he took it by the reins, and he just needed time and everything to improve. As you've seen him in college, to just kind of improve himself and getting used to the NFL game, because he had the talent and everything. I hate that word, intangibles, but he had different talent and everything to kind of see himself through, but getting the maturity and the reps and the time and everything. But during that time, it was just the coverage of him was just so nasty, as far as him being a bridge, him not being able to read defense. Like, you hear the same old, can I cuss on here? Like, you hear the same old shit that you hear about black quarterbacks for the last 30 years and everything. Going back to Randall Cunningham, where it was even nasty then with Randall Cunningham. Can't read defenses, can't look defensive backs, all that shit, man. It was nasty effing work, and that even motivated me more to be in that space to cover him and saying that, okay, this guy, it was just something different about him, and just most of the media here in the city just did not want to see it. Either they were listening to other people where, just through the stereotypes, but again, this is where representation matters. Representation matters to kind of see, what a player's build is. Like they totally missed the mark on how this young man was built to play football, how he was built. They say, oh yeah, well, he's a leader and all that stuff, but can he play? They didn't think that he could play, but they missed the mark on his leadership leading into his play. His leadership, how he was groomed by Nick Saban, how he was groomed by Lincoln Riley to play quarterback in the NFL. And again, just trying to stymie all of those other stereotypes. And mind you, Eagles have had black quarterbacks over time. They had Randall, they had McNabb, they had Vic and everything. And they did the same old things just over and over and over.
So how is this feel different with Jalen with this? So those same people that were like naysaying him, did it change now since he went to the Super Bowl? Is it now, or is are people chirping his less? So they, oh, that's my boy. Like, where everything kind of like changed?
That's pretty much what it. Oh, that's my boy. Oh, yeah, he's a man. Like, they're just still, a lot of them just still flabbergasted. And then you have others. They say, oh, yeah, it's just 1 year.
Flash in the pan.
Yeah, what's going to happen now that he has the money and everything? Oh, is there going to be more pressure on him now that he's the franchise quarterback, someone who they never thought he would be? So that, now they're giving him even more.
And he also did Lamar Jackson a favor too.
Right.
I feel like he did Lamar Jackson a favor. He got the ball rolling. Well, I mean, I guess Deshaun Watson really got everybody rolling, because with his thing of saying like, this is the amount.
This kind of sets the market now, and kind of like, I love Lamar and everything, don't get me wrong, but he should give Nicole Lynn a call, because she gonna get it done for him.
And that's the thing. Maybe now that'd be a gangster move. Does she pick up the phone and say, hey, Lamar, I know you're your own agent, I know you and your mom do everything together.
Yep.
Let me come in as a consultant. I don't only take like 2%. Let me come in and help.
Mom need to talk to Nicole.
As a consultant, this guy ain't gonna be on the books for nobody to even know. It could be low key. Like
maybe Jalen talking to him. So, you know what I mean? So,
and what's so dope is this whole team is women, like black women too. Whole team, which is super dope.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it's very calculated, it's very intentional, and all and everything. And and it's hard to talk to Jalen. And another reason why I'm in this space, because even today with the press conference where he talked about his big contract, a lot of people still don't know what to ask him. He does talk in a lot of cliches and everything like that. I get it. A lot of that is just him being guarded and all, and being groomed well by, Alabama and everything, But
you take the bus, you get there.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to know what to ask him. And I basically just, I guess I'll give it away. I just basically asked him about football. If you ask about football, he gonna give you a longer answer, and it's not gonna be in cliches for the most part. Like after the championship game, he's like, "Oh yeah, how you feel about the Super Bowl? Whenever get into the Super Bowl, all that kind of stuff." What was San Francisco trying to do to y'all defensively, man? So
see, that's why I couldn't be sports. I'd be like, when you go to Magic City, you get the lemon pepper wings. Like that would be like.
Well, that's something that I'm working on, because
I'm just saying, but that's a great. It'd be like a small thing, like the hood would know.
Right, exactly. And then again, it's really difficult to ask those questions in those spaces and everything, and not so much because people around me. I don't necessarily give a shit about the colleagues and people and everything.
They don't even know Magic City.
I'm just trying to be respectful to Eagles PR and everything. So
I interviewed Barack Obama for one question. So I was on Jimmy Kimmel. It never came out during the pandemic.
Really?
And
Okay.
I'll send you the link of the woman that got on. She cried so long. They like for me and Barack on it, because basically it was a group of us and we were all talking about Barack's book when his book dropped. And Barack just comes in the Zoom. That was the whole thing.
Wow.
He just jumps in the middle of the Zoom. And then you could go in and ask him your own question on your own for like 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
So one woman cried so long that it only got edited down to like, it was only her. She was the only one that got on TV. But I asked Barack, if you were in a back alley fight and you were walking by yourself and you could choose 2 people, who you choosing? And you got 3 big dudes gonna fight you, who you choosing? He started bugging up. Like, he literally kept laughing. I was like, yeah, who you gonna put me up? And I was like, you can't use Secret Service people. These are other random people. So he picked some other guy that used to be a Secret Service guy. I forgot his name. And he said Anthony Mason was the other one.
Wow. So
that
that's
he would
how
have,
you know he's a basketball guy, right?
Yeah.
Rock is forever basketball guy, yep. So
and he was like, he's like, and I think we'd be okay in this back alley fight.
There you go. He knew.
He knew. But those are the questions like that kind of warm people up and like, oh man, you asked me about Magic City, Little Pepper Wings. Like,
yeah, exactly. So like different things, like, you know, nobody knows. Here's a perfect example. And one of my colleagues who works for the Philadelphia Inquirer, which is like the major newspaper here in Philadelphia.
That's where Stephen A. came from, right?
Yeah, right. His name is OJ Smith. He's actually one of the black beat writer for the Philadelphia Inquirer. And Jalen's first year as a starter, after a game, he had on a purple suit and he had on like a vest suit, right? And it was a purple suit because he loves the word purple because he's a cube, right?
Cube, that's what I was going to say though. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
So, and on the back of the vest, it had the Greek letters that you could tell he was a kid, right? So everybody was like, you know, Prince, Purple Rain, everything like that, all the captions, stuff like that. And here's another story too. I'm gonna tell you a second. Yeah, so Prince, Purple Rain, all that jazz, and nobody had any idea what the Greek letters were for, Mega Phi Psi.
The symbol that Prince used to have.
So, but EJ, he sees it and he tweets it. He tweets it, takes a photo, and then he says, okay, you know, Jalen Hurts wearing his, Omega Phi Psi colors, his vest and everything. And I jumped on that and I said, see, and I tweeted on, I did the, tweeted on top, I said, representation matters. And EJ so much appreciated that. And then when I got into the press box and got in the locker room with him and, in training camp and everything, we met and everything, that's that representation.
It's like, nobody else here.
Right, yeah. But nobody, the majority of white media, they wouldn't pick that up. That's why it's important that we be in those spaces.
Yep.
Because, of course, you got to recognize the Divine Nine, whether you're a member or not. You got to recognize.
That's real. Yes. Big part of our community. Big part of our community.
Right, exactly. And, you have to understand that. So those are little things that if I ever get a moment or I ever get an exclusive with Jalen and everything, ask him, like, somebody asked me on Twitter, like, whenever I do like Jalen things, or I just have a little snapshot of him on during practice. And they said, oh yeah, ask him what his line number was, everything like that. People are asking, I
but
have
that's
a job,
real though.
You know what I mean? Yeah, what was his line number? People want to know that stuff. Our culture wants to know that. You know what I mean? When did you pledge? All that stuff. His girlfriend's an AKA and everything. So how does that, people want to know that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? His agent, Nicole Lynn, she's a Delta. So, it's
you got Divine Nine all up in there.
It's all connected. And I don't know if you remember, the video that meme, his the first year that he stepped on the field, his rookie year, he scored a touchdown against the Saints. And he put up the, I guess I'm not supposed to do that, but, he put up the cue dog sign, right?
Yeah.
And, had his tongue out and everything like that.
Nobody knew what he was doing.
Yeah, the announcers, everything like that. Oh, yeah, he's doing, somebody mentioned Kiss, the pop group. And what's the part that Do the Right Thing? Like, oh, so. Yeah, like, oh. So I was like, no, he's a Q dog, man. What the F, So
he said it was Kiss.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what the hell is going on? That's why we have to, That's Exhibit A, Exhibit B of why we
Wow,
got to be in these
representation
spaces.
He
Even
said
take it
Exhibit
further with like
yes.
women's basketball and everything, like with Aja Wilson, from South Carolina, Las Vegas Aces. Everybody knows she go hard for her AKAs, right? You got to know that.
Wow. They thought it was Kiss.
Yeah, they thought it was Kiss, man. What was that? It was another cat who played. I don't even know if he still plays for him now. A little short running back, played for the Chargers. He went over the top on the touchdown. He started doing this Q dog dance, the Q dog, dance, in the end zone. And he said, "Oh yeah, he's excited for a touchdown." You know what I mean? Everything about no clue. But some of that I put on. You know what? Some of that I put on the teams too, because in their profiles and everything,
They don't put that in there?
That has to be part of me. You know what? I had the Eagles media guide. I'm probably gonna make that suggestion to them.
Well, no, I'm surprised they don't put that in there. Like if they're in a fraternity, like especially if you're black in a fraternity or sorority.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and one of the other guys I know on the Eagles for sure that I know is a Q, N'Kobe Dean from Georgia. Yeah, I know he's a Q as well. So, those are kind of questions when I ask. Get them two together. Like, what's your thing? When Malcolm Jenkins was here, he would do his routine. His steps just about after every win. Nobody ever talked about it.
Wow. And it's probably they probably laugh at it like that. Nobody is like an undercover thing. Like
think that that's just what he does.
Yeah, it was Kiss. It was Kiss.
He Bojangles or somebody.
Yeah, like it was. Yeah, like it was Kiss. It was Kiss. You're right. Like I'm listening to Kiss. Like
that's why we got to be in those spaces. Yeah. Like even back in the day, like when I wasn't even involved in media with like Allen Iverson, how you can actually teach a journalism class on someone like how Allen Iverson was covered.
Wow.
I mean, really? it was crazy, man. Like Philly's a big
Stephen
city.
A came up from like covering Allen Iverson, right?
Right. And he probably did the best job of them all. Even though he was tough, but that's Stephen A, right? So
yeah.
But just knowing where me and you, we come from big cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, we come from big cities, but somebody from a lot of football players come from small towns in the South, man. You have to understand that culture.
Yeah.
Not from Billy Bob culture, but from Kentavious culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Black country culture. You got country, then you got black country.
Yeah.
Right. So they all have their own set of culture where they come from. They have their own obstacles and everything. Getting out of their hoods. Because it's from the Philly hood and the St. Louis hood is different from rural Georgia hood.
That's two different types of things going on too.
Right, and you can be city tough, you can be country tough too. That's a different type
and they don't applicably work. So like you can't be country
exactly
and go to the city, and you can't be a city and go to the country.
Exactly. And even when athletes run into trouble or they do wrong, or they might have trouble with the law and everything like that, it's important to understand where they come from. It's important to understand the family aspect and stuff. And very few journalists, black or white, are able to interpret that. But if they look like us, we're more inclined to tap into that.
Right. And
very few white journalists are able to tap into that. Very few. You can almost name them on one hand, maybe two hands.
Wow. Man, OJ,
and that's
coming on.
That's how important how our stories need to be told. So,
man, thank you for coming on, man. Let everybody know all your socials, where they can reach out, check out any of your stories, all that good stuff.
Thanks, D. Again, you can always follow me at OJ Philly on Twitter. Same thing on Instagram as well. Then I post my stories on there also. I have a Facebook page, OJ Spivey, the journalist. You can follow me on there. I like that page on there. And again, all my work is at on the Philadelphia Tribune, and you can just go online and just type in phillytrib.com.
phillytrib.com. Make sure y'all go over there, check out everything over there, man. Man, dude, I appreciate this, man. Like, this is super, super dope, man. I think people really appreciate it, especially people trying to come up in the sports world and everything. I'm going to introduce you to my co-host from other stuff. Matt, he works Fans 590, but he's a baseball dude. Like, so he knows it like that. And he'll tell you all kinds of stories of being in the Cardinals press box.
Baseball is my first love, so yeah, I could go.
Being a black kid in the baseball in the press box for the Cardinals, you know, with all them people.
Baseball
like,
heaven, huh?
Yeah, but I'm talking about like them seeing a brother, and he's a Kappa too. So you know,
okay, yeah, I can imagine. Yes.
Yeah, so it's a whole different thing.
Bringing in the red, yeah, different type of
exactly.
red.
They'd be like, "Wow, yeah, he's really cardinaled up today." Like, no, it's Founders Day for him. Like,
no, he's a dude, man. He's a dude.
Exactly.
So yeah, we gotta do this together, man. So yeah,
we definitely do, man. I appreciate you, man. Definitely, man. We appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, my pleasure, bro. Anytime.
All right, peace.